I would like to ask you for a very tough question about the peace talks between US administration and Russia and Ukraine. As you mentioned several times in your previous speeches, we need a stable and strong deal. And we here are not sure if such a strong deal is feasible. So my first question, how such a strong deal should look like? What kind of security guarantees should Ukraine be offered to make it impossible for Russia to attack again? To attack again, it means to NATO.
Well, first of all, I am glad that President Trump broke the deadlock, because I feel that was necessary, and I'm positive about the peace talks being conducted now under his leadership, and I think that is important. It will be a step-by-step process. NATO gets regular updates. I know the Europeans are as much as possible involved, but in the end, of course, these are talks conducted by the Americans with the Ukrainians and the Russians. The Americans and all of us, we always have been very clear. We need to bring Ukraine to a durable, a lasting peace. Vladimirovich Putin should never try again to attack Ukraine. So I cannot predict now exactly what the peace deal and the ceasefire, etc. will look like, because that is now being discussed. But we are all very clear that whatever exactly is the outcome, it has to be durable. Then the question is, how do you do that? There are many options. I'm not a scholar myself, but of course we see what the French and the Brits are doing. They are working hard to bring together European countries to potentially help maintaining peace in Ukraine. There are other ideas floating around, but the most important thing is that these discussions are now taking place, but obviously you first need a peace deal before you can keep a peace. You can only keep a peace if there is a peace to keep. And that is exactly the process we are now in. And again, I'm optimistic and I'm positive about the American initiative. I think it was important because we had somehow to break 3 years into this terrible war. We had to break the deadlock.
If I just, before allowing the audience to have your questions, their questions, I would like maybe just to continue this about the Russian demands, because as you know, we as a relatively new NATO member, we are very much aware of the so-called division of the old and new NATO. And as you perfectly know, Russia several times mentioned one of the conditions for a stable peace and ceasefire is to, let's say, enforce NATO to withdraw their troops and equipment from the territory of new NATO members. So my question to you is, don't you think so that such a goal or such a, let's say, demands from Russia's side, which are somehow well heard and repeated maybe also by Americans, can make a real division in NATO between members? And what is your message to the Central Eastern Europe?
Well, first of all, Putin can put whatever he wants on the table. That's for him. But he has absolutely no say in how we organize ourselves within the 32 alliance. Absolutely no say at all. And I hate this whole idea of having a sort of two-tier NATO, that you have somehow the 8 countries on the eastern flank different from the other 24 allies. With the latest missile technology coming out of Russia, the difference between an attack on Warsaw or an attack in Madrid is 10 minutes. So we are all on the eastern flank. Amsterdam is at the eastern flank. London is at the eastern flank. Even Washington is at the eastern flank. It is not only the formal 8 eastern flank. It is important to realize this. And Putin has to know that when he would try to get a square kilometer of Estonia or of Poland or of Slovakia or of Spain or Portugal for that matter, that our reaction will be devastating, that the full onslaught of NATO will be upon him. That is the deterrence. That is the collective defense. And whatever he wants to put on the table is up to him. But it is up to us to react. And when it comes to the dealings of the 32 and how we organize NATO, he is absolutely not involved in this. He has no say in this. This has no relation to any peace deal in Ukraine. We have to be very clear.
no doubt that your task is to mobilize Europeans and all NATO members to spend more for defense. You are a very well experienced politician and also now NATO diplomat, let's say, so you also mentioned countries who exceed this 2%, but there are also still some countries who are just below this. And you, as one of the longest serving prime minister in Europe, I'm not counting Viktor Orban, who is a prime minister in Hungary, but you are probably one of the longest serving prime minister. With such experience as being a prime minister, when you concern mainly how not to spend, but how to collect money, how you would like to encourage Europeans to spend more on defense?
First of all, by understanding that we do not do this because the Americans want us to do it, but because we need to do it because of Russia and the threat. By the way, by spending more, you will also have a fair burden sharing with the US, because the US rightly is irritated about the fact that in Europe we have collected the peace dividend, and I myself as Prime Minister was part of that. And that was wrong. Luckily the Netherlands is now spending over 2%. But collectively we have collected the peace dividend. This was not, and rightly the US is irritated. So by spending more because of the Russian threat, the effect of that is also that you have a fairish burden sharing with the United States. And yes, there are a few countries not yet at 2%. I would love to say that since I came in on the 1st of October, things started to change. That was not true. But there happened something on the 20th of January in the US, and since then, look what happened. The Belgians have been saying we want to get to 2% by this summer. Spain now is saying they want to get to 2% this summer. We know that Portugal, Italy, they all have these debates now. And I tell them that, well, now I am calling you to ask you to deliver the 2% by this summer so that collectively we can move considerably north of that 2% because we have to spend much, much more than 2%. But now I'm calling you, but you might get a very patient man from Washington on the line if you don't listen to me. And I would love to listen into those phone calls, but let's hope they are not necessary. And at this moment I must say that all these non-2%ers are having genuine debates to move to the 2% before summer.
From our side, for sure, all the best, and we wish you good luck.
Thank you. And you are leading the pack. You are at 4.7. It's amazing.
Yeah. So now I would like to open the floor for questions from the audience. So if you are ready, please.